What's going on, Facebook fam? This is Pastor Don. This is my wife, Denise. We're here to talk about 2 questions in 10 minutes. It's just an opportunity for us to share with you our experiences in marriage and relationships. And really, we just take the time to talk about relevant topics, things that Denise and I have been through, and things that we believe and hope to share with you to help you to be all that God wants you to be. All right, so I have a question for Denise, and she's going to have a question for me. So my question for you, Denise, is this. How would you feel if I came to you telling you that I believe that the Lord was leading me into a particular ministry or work type or career that you didn't necessarily agree with? Talk to the people.
So you mean like in 2005 when you said you felt the call of God to go into full-time ministry?
Okay. Yeah.
But my response to that was positive.
Okay.
Because I remember responding and said, okay.
Okay.
But I know that that's not everyone's response.
Okay.
So I think if you came to me at this point and said it, I would be a little hesitant to respond. Just being honest.
Okay. And why is that?
Because of where we are now, and where we've come from, and what we've come through. Not to say I would just totally shut it down. But I think my responsibility first would be to pray. And hey, seek the Lord myself. If this is what you feel the Lord is saying, I need to seek Him for confirmation. And if I don't feel like God is confirming that, to have the honest conversation with you.
All right.
And that conversation would consist of just talking through logistics. You know, what would we do? Financially. Would we downsize? Is this after David goes off to college? I mean, things like that. Just kind of logistical things. And then the other thing would be weigh the pros and cons. What would we give up? What would we be sacrificing? Because we've been there. We've done it. And at this point, almost 20 years in, what life-altering decisions will be made at this point? Just being honest.
I got you. So it seems to me, just hearing you talk about that, there's a little trepidation, some hesitancy based upon previous experience. Why don't you talk and share with people kind of some of how you felt in those previous experiences, and maybe they may have more context as to why you might be hesitant today if something like that were to take place.
Let me just say, ultimately, I would support you. I'm not saying I would not support, but I would have questions. Lots of them. And I would have, just, hey, are you sure? Questions, doubts, and, a little trepidation. And not that I don't have faith in God, not that I don't know that God works things out, but in the natural, as a woman, sometimes we just need to feel secure. And I know my ultimately security and faith comes from the Lord. I know that, but I live on this side of heaven. And I feel that decisions that you make, if they are affecting us financially or affecting our lifestyle, I just want to know what the plan is.
Gotcha. So let me just be blunt and honest, all right? So we had an Abraham type call to ministry to move from DC to Texas. We knew without a shadow of a doubt, because God spoke to me, then He spoke to my wife, He did it in order, and we knew without a shadow of a doubt that God was calling us to move from where we were in relative comfort in DC, relative to family, relative to housing situation, relative to finances, relative to a lot of things. But God called us out of that comfortable place to come to a place where we had no clue as to what we were doing. And we were on this journey moving about, but somewhere along the line, there was a shift in terms of us going towards the specific thing that God wanted us to do. We were always in ministry. I was always in ministry, but I think the mistake that I made, and I can be honest and say that, is I did not, as I was going on the journey, there were some other preparations that I believe I could have made that would have made the family's situation from a financial perspective a lot better. In hindsight, I realize and I see from my own experience, as well as just in reading and just talking with other people who have had the same types of experiences, that the financial piece is really important, and it's okay to be bivocational, right? Having a secular job, a job that pays you money and can take care of the family as well as take care of other benefits that you need just to live from a physical perspective, but also to be able to serve the Lord in the way that He's called you to. So in hindsight, as I look back, that I would have been more focused in prayer, really seeking God in that, from that perspective, and not just taking my marching orders, moving along in the direction that I thought was God was speaking, and in not and just not seeking God. Right, just the wisdom part. Right. Yep.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So now,
yes,
I have a question for you.
Okay.
How would you include our kids in the process? Now we're at the point where I'm supporting you. I'm supporting your decision.
Okay.
How do we include our kids?
Well, something that we like to do, and we've been off for a couple of weeks, actually about 3-4 weeks, because it's summertime and because Dave is working. We like to have family meetings. In his family meetings, we just on Sunday evenings we get the family together and we just talk about our week, what's going on in their lives. We give them open forum to kind of discuss what's happened. That's not the only time we try to discuss, but this is just a time for the family to get together to talk. And I know we would use that forum to really get the kids together to see, like, hey guys, this is what we're thinking. This is what we're praying about. This is what we think God is saying. And we're not just saying that this is what we believe God is saying just because we're supposed to do that, but because the journey that we're on, that God has called us on, looks a little different from our friends and other people.
Definitely.
So we have to keep God in the middle and focus of it, because we are seeking to please Him in all things. So because of that, we include the Lord in every aspect of our conversations with our sons, even if they don't necessarily feel comfortable. That's just something we will do. So that's afforded us the opportunity to have conversations. The other thing that we did when we have really, really difficult conversations that we need to have with them, for example, when they were in school, in private school, we had to take them out of private school because we ain't had no money. We couldn't afford to do it because Denise was working at a private school. They were no longer employing her. So there was some financial aid there, but from a financial perspective, we could not afford to keep them there. So we took them out for ice cream, got them comfortable. We were just chilling in Chick-fil-A, actually.
Had the conversation.
And then had the conversation. And surprisingly, they took it well. In fact, Denise and I were more tore up about the situation than they were. I know I cried, and I think she cried as well about it. But the boys were like, okay, you know what? They did miss some friends. But I believe it was a blessing in disguise, because ultimately it is our responsibility, and I know I'm veering off into another subject, but it is our responsibility, from a spiritual perspective, to raise them in the fear and admonition of the Lord Jesus Christ, according to Ephesians chapter 6. So that's the big part. That's our job. We can't rely upon a school or anyone else to do that. But the other part that was a blessing to us is, from an academic perspective, the school system where we live is one of the best in the country, and we pay enough taxes for it to be the best in the country. That's another subject on that. But anyway, because of that, taking David out of the private school where he was, putting him in the public school, he's able to take advantage of some opportunities to do some things that he really loves to do that he would not have been able to do in the school where he was in. So it was a blessing in disguise.
And so, second part of that question,
okay.
Do you agree that parents should include their kids in conversations where you have life-changing decisions, whether it's career or ministry? Do you think it's beneficial to include the kids on those conversations?
I think ultimately you have to consider contextually where the kids are in their growth and development and what season they're in, right? So, but not necessarily invite them in for the conversation. You want to hear their perspective, but ultimately it's our job to be able to figure out, like, hey, is this what God's saying? Should we do this? But we also need to include, and what season are these kids in, right? So, for instance, David's 16, Daniel's 10. because David's about to go to college and he's got friendships and doing other things, job. He needs a little less attention than Daniel does. So with Daniel, because of where he is in his growth and development, I might pause a little bit from making a major change simply because of like, man, he's never gonna get this time back, right? He's never gonna get this time back. It's not like I don't consider Denise in the relationship that we have, but I have to think about him and his growth and development, as well as you in the time that you need as a spouse, because when they're gone and they're not even thinking about us, and we said this in another video, and it's just us, they ain't gonna be let me tell you something, look at the camera. They ain't gonna be thinking about you, anybody else.
Or all the days that we spent driving them all around playing.
Exactly. They will appreciate it, but when they're married or they're trying to, on their careers. When they boot up. Lord, yeah, the little girlfriend, whatever, they ain't gonna be thinking about you. So take care of your spouse. Put her first.
Amen.
Right. Anyway, is that all?
I think that's it.
Okay. So what do you think about from the kids in keeping, making them a part of that process and just communicating? What do you think about that?
I don't think, I agree with you. I mean, they don't need to know everything, but I think it's nice to know how it affects them. Because you and I growing up, we weren't asked how we felt about decisions that were made, that our parents made.
Your mom ain't tell me that.
Exactly.
Hi, Mom.
We were told to do it. This is what's happening. Maybe sometimes we were told. But for the most part, we weren't asked how we felt.
Sure.
I remember moving several times, I think in my middle school years, which just like in boys, that's a very crucial time in middle school years. But things were going on and financially with my mom, and we just weren't told anything.
Sure.
And there was even one point where she ended up in the hospital and we were staying with cousins. No one even told me she was in the hospital. So I think it's important that we keep our kids abreast of what's going on as much as they need to know and as much as they can handle.
Sure.
But not to totally keep it from them.
Sure.
So I'm way more open to with my kids than my mom was with me.
So let me just interject this question. I think this is good. Why do you think some parents don't share things with their kids? What do you think the reason for that is?
It depends on what it is that they're not sharing, because in some cases parents might be embarrassed about some of the decisions. Like what happened with us, my mom was probably embarrassed about a lot of the things that happened.
Sure.
But for some parents, maybe they feel like they would be ridiculed by the kid.
Okay.
They may feel, well, I'm the parent, you're the kid, you don't need to know what's going on. It's different reasons.
Sure.
I personally just feel like as much as possible, I want my kids to be aware of what's going on as much as they can handle and as much as they need to know. Sure.
Gotcha. Because some things they don't need to know.
They don't need to know everything.
No. But I don't think there's anything wrong with being vulnerable for them, because I think it's going to help in their development, because there's a lot of times when that lack of vulnerability can breed hypocrisy. Yeah. Right? Can breed them, or can breed in us a sense of superiority to the point where we can't do anything wrong, and that's hypocrisy. And that's something I think can turn off kids to trusting God and trusting their parents. So I think to your point, I agree. There's some things that to the degree that they can handle it, and I think it's good for them, they should know, because it helps them in their development and character.
And then if they know some of the trials, some of the things that we're going through, and then they see God fix it, they see God work it out, that helps their faith.
Without question. We've got some stories.
Some they know about and some they don't know about.
Absolutely. Well, this is good. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Thank you once again for stopping by for 2 questions in 10 minutes. We value the opportunity just to be able to share openly and honestly with one another and with you. If you'd like to leave a comment in the comment section, please do so on my Facebook page or Hunter D's, or you can enter instant message, either Hunter D's or myself, or if you'd like to, you can leave an email at the email address that's below. Again, thank you so very much for both Denise and myself. We say God bless you. Be blessed, and we love you with the love of the Lord.